All right, today we are diving deep into a topic that has fueled a lot of public anxiety. I'm talking about the fear of microplastics, what some people even call plastophobia.
It's everywhere, isn't it?
It really is. And our mission today is pretty simple. We want to bypass the scary headlines and use some rigorous global science to get to what's really going on.
A shortcut to being actually well informed. I like it.
Exactly. So we're focusing entirely on one source, a major 2025 literature review from the European Food Safety Authority, or EFSA.
And these guys are one of the most trusted names in the business.
They really are, and we want to know what their huge analysis says about microplastics coming from the food containers you probably use every single day.
And this is so essential because microplastics have sort of become the default villain in health news. They've almost replaced older concerns, like pesticides.
That's a great point.
And on platforms like TikTok or social media, the panic just moves at the speed of light. The reliable data can't keep up. So for a real academic debate, you have to start with the evidence, not the alarm.
Okay, so let's start right there with the hype. We have sources from the American Council on Science and Health, the ACSH, and they argue the hype is just completely overwhelming the facts.
Right.
So if EFSA is such a trusted authority, why is a group like ACSH saying the report's findings are basically being ignored or even suppressed?
Well, what's fascinating here is the critique from experts they cited, like environmental toxicologists and even surgeons. They pointed out that so many of the sensational headlines, the ones claiming massive harm,
I've seen those.
they were published before researchers really had enough solid data. They just jumped the gun.
And that's the critical thinking moment, isn't it? The EFSA review is a scientific heavyweight, but it was largely ignored by major media outlets when it came out in late 2025.
And why?
Because its findings were just less catastrophic than the story that was already out there.
Precisely. The ACSH perspective really highlights that the early risks were heavily exaggerated because of methodological issues.
Meaning what exactly? What kind of issues?
Inconsistent detection methods, for one, and high levels of contamination in the labs. They were even misidentifying stuff that wasn't plastic at all and calling it plastic.
So they might have just been measuring dust in the lab.
It can be as simple as that. It's a powerful reminder of how messy the early stages of science can be.
So let's get to the core of it.
Hmm.
The EFSA review looked at 81 studies on over 100 common food contact materials. That's everything from water bottles to
takeout containers, tea bags, Ziploc bags, all of it.
So what did they actually conclude?
Well, this really raises a huge point about data quality. The review confirmed that most of the published research was hampered by those flaws we mentioned.
Messy early stages.
Exactly. Flaws in sample prep, unreliable analysis. It was just incredibly difficult to tell what was actual microplastic release versus, say, background contamination, or even chemicals from the testing process that just look like microplastics.
Okay, but here's the finding that seems to shift the entire discussion. The assessment showed that microplastics are not migrating through the plastic via some kind of internal chemical diffusion.
Yes, and that was the massive fear, wasn't it? This idea was fueled by those earlier flawed studies.
So if it's not diffusion, what is it?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the mechanism is primarily mechanical.
Mechanical.
Yeah, it's caused by simple wear and friction. Just think about the physical action of screwing a bottle cap on and off over and over, or stirring hot tea.
Wait, hold on. You're telling me that all the panic about some mysterious chemical leaching is less of an issue than me just being a bit rough when I open a takeout container?
That's the key takeaway. Precisely. Materials that have open or fibrous structures, like those plastic tea bags,
Ah, yes, I've heard about those.
they're the most prone to shedding fibers, especially when you add heat, which softens the material or mechanical stress, like stirring. The amount of release is far lower than people feared, and it's a question of wear and tear, not some hidden chemistry.
So, what does this deep dive mean for you listening at home? The sources really urge us to maintain some curiosity and a cautious interpretation to move away from plastophobia.
It's a more measured view.
It is. The most robust science suggests the risk mechanism isn't some mysterious diffusion, but simple and probably controllable mechanical wear.
And that leaves a final thought for you to explore. Given that a rigorous report like the EFSA review often gets overlooked for a more sensational headline, how does the responsibility then shift to you, the consumer, to actively seek out sources that prioritize solid evidence over just immediate alarm?